My family has been in this town 45 years, definitely opposed to this plan. I just got a text from another resident. Give me 1 second. And maybe you all know this. Tax bills went out, our taxes went up, so tell them we have money to keep Fred.
Hi, Rick McCormick. What year was Fred hired as a superintendent? 2003? Great.
No, 2005.
5. So have they gotten worse? Have they stayed the same, or have they gotten better?
If you were going to comment on.
Okay, and with that said, it seems like we're going into uncharted waters without some type of escape plan. And with that said, something just keeps coming to my head, and maybe some are opposed to this, but I think of Obamacare, and it's really not going to come full to 2016. So what else is in this paperwork that even you don't know that that's going to happen? I think that's my comment. It is a big concern. Thank you.
Joe Garatano, 425 Willow. Shared services is not something that I favor. I lived in a community down in Texas for a while that was annexed by Houston. Our taxes went up, our water bills went up. They took out 4 of our fire departments who were at their beckoning, and they were 26 miles away. They just had the authority to reach being a major city. We don't have so much of a major city here in North Fanwood. However, when we're playing with their toys, they can take them and go home. If I've got to pay taxes to the extent that I'm paying, the only thing I know that's working for those taxes are our DPW, our police department, the volunteers. So I don't want to be a second fiddle to anyone else's whims, because if they decide that their issues are more of a concern to them rather than ours being an equal concern to them, you really, I realize you're up here to, at the pleasure of the people. Well, allow us that pleasure and at least that dignity to vote on this as a town. We need to make our own destiny, because it's very well split up here. I see numbers in the papers that came out from both sides. We'll save this. We're overrun on that. And nothing in black and white substantiates it. Saying, yes, this is true, no, that's not true. It's just back and forth. Well, it's like playing ping pong, ball keeps going across, and whoever misses, okay, well, but people out here, we're still in fog. Yet, that green is always coming up. No one argues about that. No one argues how you can manage that better. And again, you serve at the pleasure of the people. We're not happy. Have a referendum, have a vote, and we, majority rules one way or another, so be it. But at least we have a vote.
Anyone else?
Anyone else?
Jimmy Stanley, 653 Murray. First, I'd like to just make a comment. You guys are voted in to represent these people.
Correct, yes.
And you could just as easily be voted out, okay? You can't sit up there and tell us that you're gonna do this, okay? You're supposed to get comments from every resident in this town. Shame on you, and you, and you, and you, and you, and you, and you, Diana, but not you, Mr. Mayor. That's number one. Number two, have you guys all seen this from Joe Sarno? Is everybody aware of this? I'm going to read it to you. I got at least 3 minutes.
Okay.
First of all, the Garwood DPW contract ends this year, leaving the future of the DPW unknown. Is everybody aware of that?
Yes.
Okay, so now they want to fire this man, who does a great job in this town and always has. All right? That's the first can of worms. All right? Garwood DPW workers would then report to Fanwood superintendent. Our men would have to get his approval on everything. And how often is he gonna be here? Maybe 10 hours during the work week? What are they gonna do in the meantime? Nobody's gonna be able to make a decision, right? What's that gonna create for our DPW? Our services are gonna get better? Think about that for a minute. And Sarah, you told me that this couldn't go on the ballot in November because there was obstacles. I found that to be a lie. This kind of thing, when you merge with another town, could absolutely go on the ballot for everybody that get involved. Because you turn people away here tonight, and you got seniors, and a lot of seniors in Garwood that can't even make it in here to voice their opinions.
1 minute, sir.
1 minute to go. Okay. All right.
Yeah, you got mine too.
First of all, you're telling me you're gonna save $70,000 a year in salary and benefits for this man, but you're paying Mr. Petrozello $30,000 in benefits, and you haven't asked him to relinquish any of his, have you? There's a $30,000 savings, right there. All right? Now, all of these things on here are absolute facts. Here's some of the wasteful spending that we did here in Garwood. $100,000 to fix damaged sidewalks caused by trees that we planted. $32,000 for the athletic field complex, just in maintenance. We were told $5,000. Oh, and by the way, you guys told me when we removed the bulk week, it was gonna save us $30,000 a year. But, in fact, my taxes went up every single year. We didn't save squat. We lost services, and the taxes continue to go up.
I know you have a long list, could you please sum up?
Yeah, I'll sum it up. You're barking up the wrong tree. Aren't you, where do we get our budget from? The county freeholders, right? Everybody voted you in here. Why aren't you petitioning the county freeholders for a larger budget for the great citizens of this town? You guys are screwing us here, and we need to vote on this. There, I'm done.
You sign me ready? I will. Sign it. I'm sorry, your address?
229 Third Avenue.
Thank you very much.
I was just reading the brief history in that, on the CPMW thing. I mean, at one time, we didn't have them.
That's correct.
And the state decided that we people should have them. Matter of fact, they thought they were important enough to make it mandatory. So why do we have a park plan? I would think you're gonna mandate a person, you're gonna mandate that person to work full-time and not have a 10-hour. If they wanted that, they would have said, oh yeah, you can have a part-time 10-hour CPWM person. But no, they made it mandatory because they thought it was necessary. I think, the state thinks it's necessary, I think Garwood thinks it's necessary, and I think it should be necessary.
Thank you.
Deborah Bannock, 421 4th Avenue, Garwood, New Jersey. We have our building department in Cranford, correct?
That's correct.
We moved that there to save cost. I didn't see any savings, but we did that. Now we're gonna be in Fanwood. What service are we gonna move to what other town down the road? Are we going to have to, if we need something from DPW, call DPW in Fanwood? We could do our building permits in Cranford? I just can't see it. I do believe some things could be shared. It seems to be working with the building in Cranford, but I'm opposed to this. If we're going to share services, I think we should share them in the same town, so we're not running all over the place and paying other towns money to help support them. Support us first.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Michelle Vatacola, 557 Willow Avenue. I have a question. How many towns did we look at before we took this on? And I'm sorry that I'm coming in on the back
That's
end of
okay.
this, but I'm kind of curious on how many other towns we looked at or took bids from before we took this one. And in my research, I think that we'd be the only town in New Jersey that has this as a shared adoption here.
Yes.
And I don't understand why we have to be the test pilot for everyone. Why didn't we wait, and if it works somewhere else, then try to fix it, instead of trying to fix something that's not broke for $40,000 or $70,000? Which, there's been things that have been said all over, and all of you live in town. Maybe not all of you own a home. But I never see a rebate in my taxes. I only see an increase. So there's been things that have been proposed before that were gonna save us money. When we moved here 25 years ago, our taxes were like 5,000, now I'm close to 13. So it's just that, I understand things go up, unfortunately. Salaries, things don't always rise at the same the same increments as other expenses. But there has to be little pieces that maybe can be taken from other areas to make up the difference of what you think that we're missing, instead of trying to just put someone out who has a family, what is someone supposed to do at a middle-aged person who's part of our town to go out and get a job? I wouldn't be very happy if I was displaced. And I work in the entertainment industry. I know that when you go to a catering hall and there's 2 events going on, and I know this, if you're the small event, you get second fiddle to the big one. And that's what we would be.
You better believe it.
Thank you.
So can I have an answer on my question?
What's the answer to that?
How many towns did you get bids from?
Yes.
Okay.
Because they don't have to.
I'm Don Mudd, 647 Myrtle Avenue. On the issue of money, because that's what it seems to be, first and foremost, I did roll this out at one of the informational sessions that I attended. You talk about $200,000 of capital investment that the town needs to make for certain pieces of equipment. One of those things being a sewer machine, that I understand is about $55,000. So if you take $200,000 and finance it over 6 years, that comes out to $33,333.33. Divided by 1,800 households in the town, comes out to approximately $18 per household. So that's the first thing. I don't know if everyone's aware of those numbers. It seems that you're posting 70,000, 100,000, 200,000. Second thing is $107,000, which is the salary plus benefits package, divided by 1,800 households is $59 and change. So when you add those two things together, a total of about $78 per resident for the next 6 years, and thereafter, when we have this equipment that typically is discounted in a township over a 20-year, 25-year period, which more realistically actually gets used for about 35 years, right? For $78, I definitely would rather pay that money, like we have been, and have all the services so Garwood could be self-sufficient. And as many people have said, here and not here, one of the main things that we have going for our town is all the services. Everybody knows that Garwood has a phenomenal DPW. We're the first ones done in the snow. You try to go from Garwood to Cranford, you're gonna get stuck. Garwood to Westfield, you're gonna get stuck. So we're teaching, I have 3 kids. I'm teaching them to be self-sufficient. I was taught to be self-sufficient. I've been here since 2005, paying all my taxes, not really having to come into this arena. But with everything that's going on, even bigger than the issue that we're talking about, which is kind of smaller, the big issue is nobody knows what's going on. No one knows what's going on. I don't know what's going on, and you might say, well, come to the meeting, all right? There's not enough room for everyone here, A, all right? And B, the job of everybody on the council, in my opinion, is to be a liaison and an ambassador to all the residents that are in their specific ward. And if you're not doing that, and you just say, well, come to the meeting, that's sitting on your hands. And it was mentioned to me, well, it would be easy to be a council person and just come in and sit on your hands. But we have to do something. And one gentleman said, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So the road to hell is paved with good intentions, you know? So I firmly oppose this whole thing, and there's a whole slew of hidden costs and unforeseen expenses that are gonna happen when you guys decide to do this. One of those things being a potential class action lawsuit with all the residents going against this, going against this vote that you're gonna have. And if you figure an attorney costs, let's just say for argument's sake, $300 an hour, and there's 350 petitions, signed signatures on the petition, that is $1 per person, just on the petition that's signed. So I implore you not to do this, and to put it on the ballot and do the right thing for Garwood.
Yes, sir.
I signed it already. Real quick. 2 questions. One, I know we're getting to the end of this, I can just tell by your demeanor. That, you sort of had enough. I can tell, all right, and I think everyone else can tell. So, my question is, you gonna vote on this tonight? Have you made that decision yet, or are you still pondering it up here? Are you gonna have a little meeting in the back room?
No meeting in the back room, it's on the agenda.
So it's gonna be voted
on.
on tonight,
That's
regardless if 15 more people get out behind me and say what they gotta say. That's my question, right?
It will be voted on. If it passes, that's a
And number
different issue.
2, did you purposely turn the air conditioning off so that smoke us out of here? Like, we had enough, we're hot, and everybody, even your people up there were waving, like, let's go home, this is like going on too long, okay?
Where's the intention?
Mayor, is it a done deal?
Yeah, well, it's done.
I have no idea, we didn't know.
Well, you probably pre-voted.
But you're gonna.
Next person, please. Young gentleman.
I ain't saying what.
Okay.
Joe Farmer, 6'5", how's that?
There you go. I guess I go back.
That like that. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
I tell you what, if you vote yes on that, you might as well take that down because it won't have any meaning. Small town, big heart, I doubt it.
Yeah.
We're better than that. Now, speaking on the side of lawsuits and things of that nature, we're going to look at the Shared Service Act that was signed in 2013 by Chris Christie. What that said is that it was a pilot program for 5 counties. It does not include Union County, which means that if he decides to sue, he can sue and get his job back. Did we ever think about that?
Costs a lot of money.
It's going to cost some money, and this could cost us more money in the end. I don't get it. look at Shared Service Act, and it is a pilot act, okay, it's actually called the Common Sense Shared Service Act. It is not, it's only done by 5 of the 21 counties, not including Union. You know, they started that entire agreement because they wanted to merge the municipal clerks down in Camden County, 2 towns, Audubon and Magnolia. What ended up happening was Audubon's clerk got the decision to take over the clerkship over 2 towns. The one from Magnolia sued. Guess what? She won and she got her job back.
Good.
Something to think about. That's the reason they made the law to begin with, and it includes Camden County. While it's not here yet, we have to be wary of that. This may not be the best thing and the best timing for all this. I urge everyone to reconsider and vote no. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please. Seeing none?
Line up. I would like to look at everybody in this audience to tell you how easy it is to stand up here and speak. It's really not hard, so I encourage you to use your voice. The last meeting, you said that once they got done reporting to family as the part-timer, when he wasn't around, they would point, or they would report to the town administrator to tell them what they need, what they did. Is that not right? Is the town administrator now taking on another job for a higher payroll? And if so, what is she not doing that she's doing this now?
Yeah.
Thanks.
we'll answer them.
Simon, please. Think so?
Well,
Good evening.
the way I see it, when I sit down at this meeting, it seems like the big question is accountability versus a financial aspect, okay? I understand the cost savings. I understand benefit of doubt. I don't know anybody in this room for the most part, okay? It's a small town. It's an important issue. I really believe it should go out to the people to vote on, okay? It also takes the pressure off, and I think it also earns respect for those who, with good intent, who are financially concerned about this issue, presented it forward and believe it's a good plan or good idea. It takes the pressure off those people if they toss it back to the people and then let the population vote on it. It's a small town, it's an important issue, and this way, everybody bows out gracefully because the people voted on the issue. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Say your name and address.
Good idea.
Your name and address for the record, sir?
Oh, I'm sorry. That's Dave Mullen, 605 Myrtle Avenue.
Thank you. Someone new? Like to speak?
3 minutes.
That would be my closing statement. Joe Garitano, 425. I really wish everyone here would get up and leave, whether you're for it
Joe,
or against it. Come on, but
Can we have other people before you.
Oh, really?
Yes,
I'm sorry.
thank you.
I'll hold you.
You may not want to after I speak. Steve Green, 409 Brookside Place, Garwood, New Jersey. I have to thank you, everybody, because you've all made some pretty impressive commentary and critique on exactly what you feel is right and for the town. I'm on the opposing view. I truly believe that shared services is going to happen somewhere along the line. And I think at this point in time, when you have 7 employees, and I think the DPW does a tremendous job, that's to start with, okay? But I think when you have 7 employees, and you have 3 administrative levels that warrant supervising those 7 employees, it doesn't make any sense. I mean, you have the superintendent, you have a foreman, and then you have the administrative group at the district level or at the Garwood level. I just think it's overkill, and I'm not so sure it's warranted. And I definitely not taking a job away from a person. What I'm saying is take the person out of that cost factor. That's all I'm saying. You have to look at a picture from a standpoint of physical responsibility sometimes. And I think that's what this should be a little more about, as opposed to the gut level, and I can understand it. And there are valid points that were brought up by each and every one, and I think it makes sense to evaluate that level. But this is my personal viewpoint, and I think shared services is a plus. Thank you.
Thank
Put it on
you.
the ballot.
Joe Garrett, 425 Willow. My question, number one, let's say something of a lawsuit does arise. How much did it cost us when Miss Ariema sued the town? How much would it cost the town to defend against a bunch of people? You know, again, give us a chance. Like, really, you actually should vote in front of us. I don't know if that's gonna happen.
Of course.
But however, I think if you vote and it goes against the town as opposed to yourselves, I think you should all resign.
Here, here.
Because that's what we have here. We keep paying more taxes, nothing comes back. And again, we have, the only thing we really can rely on here are high taxes and the availability of our services that we get from the town employees and the police. We're getting nothing from council, other than bickering.
Yep.
Republicans, so to speak, Democrats generally you keep a clear playing field, you don't want to spoil each other. However, that's why I stopped coming to these meetings, it's kangaroo court. And I really, I think you might be doing a better job than the past mayor. I mean, she was, I actually, quite frankly, I think the mayor shouldn't be a powerless mayor. I think you should have some say and actually oversee and stop the bickering, be the leader. You're the head of the town. But again, if you vote and take the money out of our pocket and give it to someone else as a first priority to them, and not for us, for our use in this town exclusively, you should resign. You're gonna lose your ego and resign.
Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead, just ask. You're fine, President.
South Rolling, 55 Fourth Avenue. First, I want to say, as you know, we've been out there handing out petitions with all factual information on what's going on.
Sal, we can't hear you.
So we've been out with petitions, is that better?
Yeah.
My son. With all factual information. And I'll tell you, over 100 people were afraid to sign the petition. They said that they do not support this, but they were afraid of political backlash. What does that say about what's going on in our town, number one? Number two, more than 10% of our adult population had signed a petition that they don't want this resolution proposal to pass. Over 350 signatures. Now, I do have a question. What is the last thing you guys passed without notifying the public and just putting it on the agenda and pass it? The recycling contract, how'd that work Thursday night? It didn't work, and there's a lot of breaches of contract on that, we should probably talk about that in the next meeting. Before you come back and talk about the, us, because at the last information session, Ms. Tedesco, you said that we can't put this on the ballot. That's not true. Citation NJSA 1937-1 says this can in fact go on the ballot. So we're being disingenuous there. So how did we get here? 3 weeks ago tonight, this was on the agenda. No one knew about it, except for people in the inner circle. And you were planned on voting for it that night. 10 different occasions. Ms. Tedesco, Councilman Earstadt, Ms. Tarantino, Councilman Tarantino, and Ms. Ariema either asked the attorney or stated that it had to be voted that night, until you pushed, and thank God for a great lawyer here, pushed them and say, it's not a legal issue, we could table it. So you tried to push it through that night. Now tonight, you're trying to push it through again, with not even anybody coming in here, and I think the chief said, oh, the capacity in here is 66, we had over 100 people here tonight. So you're trying to push this through again without giving everybody in town a chance to vote for it. Someone had said earlier that no other town has this service. That is absolutely correct. 465 municipalities or so in New Jersey. Nobody does this for a reason, because it doesn't work. It does not save you money. No matter how blue in the face you guys tell us it saves money, it does not. You told us all the things that the past have saved us money. You tell us that 2 years ago was the lowest tax increase we've ever had. The only reason because of that is because of the state money we got from pension reform and from Sandy money. Had nothing to do with what you guys are doing. If it wasn't for that money, our taxes would have been triple that year. Lastly, I just want to say that we do have the best DPW in town, in the county. This proposal, it's not even out. Oh, one more thing. You guys keep saying that if the equipment is used by our town and it's damaged, we would not be paid for it. That's still in the proposal, that we would pay for that stuff. And I can point out for you, so it's not for debate, it's a fact. Lastly, I just want to say that this proposal is garbage. It is trash. It should be thrown out. As a matter of fact, our DPW is too good to actually throw this stuff out. So just throw it back at them. We don't want it.
Time's up. Good evening, Mayor. Ladies and gentlemen, Council, Patrick, 325 Hill Avenue. I guess, obviously, I also have a house and family. And I actually did talk to my neighbors over there, and they're not even aware of what's going on, although colleague Morris says it's televised. But they don't know what's going on over there. And I actually did also talk to one of the DPW fellows, and they actually thought that their employees would be used over here, so I corrected him on that one. But it was, so I mean, somehow Famwood, although they were assuring us Famwood knows about all this, it seems like they don't. But that's neither here or there, if they want to sneak something through over there. But anyway, just a suggestion. Obviously there is an outrage and a large level of outrage. Townwide, I'm not sure, but there's a lot of people here, and normally it's the ones who are mad would show up at meetings, and I'm sure you know that. But just maybe a suggestion to have this resolve itself on its own, and I mentioned this before, Jeff Atkins, I guess he's getting close to retirement, so maybe, why don't you wait until the attrition sets in? If we can get along with a part-time director, then maybe have Fred work as a foreman and be part-time director, if that's possible. Somebody actually did say that before. The equipment that we're going to borrow, possibly set up a rental cost per day, because I don't know how often you'll be using a lot of the pieces of equipment. It's great that it's at our disposal, but if we're not using it to the full capacity of paying the $40,000 and whatever other ancillary costs, then possibly just do that. And then you have at your disposal maybe Cranford, Westfield, and Famwood to rent whatever equipment they have. I did send a letter to the mayor and council. It was late, but it was after the two informational meetings, and I was summarizing a lot of issues that people brought up. And I'm not 100% sure that the agreement actually reflects this. There is bootleg copies out there, but I mean, I would hope if you're going to be looking at the agreement that there isn't shortcomings. And in the letter, I did mention about Garwood documents versus Famwood documents that they would be using. If Clint comes over here, I mean, he's going to have to use Garwood documents, but over there use Famwood documents, and there may be errors because you're using two different formatted documents. So maybe you have to streamline documentation. You have an item called cost of any additional services. I mean, somehow we don't even know what those additional services are. That's in the letter I sent you. But other items that you must consider, about Famwood is allowable to also make other shared services with other towns. I mean, So right out from underneath us, the street sweeper could also be rented out to a couple other towns.
Mr. Patterson, please
And-
summarize.
And there should be some kind of mutual consent if they're gonna start doing other shared services. Okay, just process for grievance and dispute, because I'm sure this is not gonna be smooth as to Clint moving over here, like somebody said, 2 hours a day, or is it 1 hour a day? There should be a compliance section for tracking of the 10 hours, which you mentioned about a fingerprint scanner, which is scary. I'd rather see abuse of hours than bringing in the fingerprint scanners. The availability, exactly, if he's working on an emergency in Garwood, does that count as part of the 10 hours?
Mr. Patterson, please sum up.
Okay, dual Fanwood and Garwood emergencies, I mean, that's a major issue that you guys really should be discussing. And his duties, exactly, what are they, and what he's supposed to be doing, what Dean is supposed to be doing, what Jeff Atkins is supposed to be doing. So I mean, there's a lot of issues that came out of these informational meetings that you really should consider and firm up in the agreement. So, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Valerie Delavanti, 11 Oak Street.
Is there anyone else?
I just have a quick question about the recycling deal that you just signed the other day. Does anybody know anything about that? Could you fill us in? Why did we get a new recycling deal and whom is it with? That's a lot to say.
Something at 8:30 at night, dropping stuff all over the church.
Any other, we have one more.
Connie Miller, 88 Second Avenue. My question is, does anybody know how many pieces of equipment will we be able to borrow from Fanwood? And how old are these pieces of equipment? If any of them break down and can't be repaired, they have to be replaced. Is Garwood required to pay half the cost of that equipment?
I just want to commend you guys for one thing. You did something I was hoping to do, but you guys did something that was miraculous. You brought this community together. 99% of this people don't want this. It's not political. I know, Councilman Yerstad and the President of the Democrat Party wrote nasty, divisive letters, but this isn't political. You brought together Republicans, Democrats, Independents, people who have never voted before. You united the whole town here because they don't want this. So if this was political, I would have sat back and let you guys, get completely killed in November. But it's not, because you know what? People in this town care. We put our neighbors, our friends above politics, and I hope you guys do that tonight and vote no on this proposal. Thanks.
My name is Linda Piella. I live at 99 4th Avenue. Shared services usually do save money for municipalities, and I'm sure you put this through in good faith. You thought it would be an administrative decision. It's obviously much more. You obviously have a lot of differing opinions and opposition in the town. You really have to table this and put it up for a vote, or at least further consideration, because it's not just an administrative decision at this point, okay?
Thank you.
So another point is, someone said maybe you could be a leader. I'm not judging you or anything. However, we currently do have a leader, and everything is running well. And when you have 647 Myrtle.
I don't remember everything.
Thank you.
So it was discussed in the informational sessions someone stood up and said that they were from a Fortune 100 company and they got laid off, and then another person's Fortune 500 white collar. This is totally different, you know? Garwood is largely a blue collar town. The average household income is about 77,000 or somewhere around there. Fanwood is 122, 123,000. Okay, you probably have a lot more, you know, white collar professionals there. People identify with the public works. And if you start taking that away, you start maybe, you know, you're trying to get rid of the dispatch from the police. There was, you know, rumors that Garwood PD is not going to control the streets of Garwood anymore. At some point, I'm just saying rumors. These are all things that are affected, you know, people, and people aren't here because they feel like, oh, I'm not going to make a difference, you know, by saying anything. So it would be, again, most prudent to table this or vote it down, because if we start losing these things that are of value, the property values will probably decline, and then we're gonna have like irreversible issues with whoever's coming in here. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
The guy in the orange shirt said it wasn't hard to get up here. He's lying, but.
Please sign the map.
Before I speak?
Please.
Was that when the shotgun got me? They can't even write. I was gonna run for office, but I figured you guys have gone through enough tonight.
Address, please, ma'am.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, your
I'm
address.
sorry, my
That's
name,
okay.
June Burgeller, I live on
Thank you.
343rd Avenue.
Thank you. Good evening.
I don't know where you guys stand on stuff, but you have a heck of a job. I was at one of these meetings a long time ago, and when it was all closed, the mayor, I guess, said, nobody asked us not to do it. So I am, I'm very respectfully asking each one of you to vote no, for all of us. Thanks.
Anyone else? Seeing none? Seeing none on the agenda? Are there any resolutions anyone wants omitted from the consent agenda?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Just find it, the planning board, 15-222, which is the planning board resolution regarding the RFQ for the professional planner. The planning board has asked that I remove that from the agenda for your further consideration.
Thank you.
And if we get the ones having to do with Fire and Fred and hiring the family DPW superintendent, those are two resolutions, right?
30 and 31.
Yeah.
30 and 231.
Okay. We have those removed too, please.
Okay. May I have a motion to adopt consent agenda as amended?
So moved.
Mayor, before we do that, can I just clarify what we're doing with?
Yes, sir.
Planning board, which was
22.
22. My understanding is that that's going to be removed and is not going to be voted on separately, so.
That's correct.
That's what we're going to do is.
I have that already, he's gonna say that next.
Next?
Yes,
Yes.
yeah, I already wrote it in his agenda.
Okay.
So we have Bill, Councilman Yurtsev made the motion to remove 222, can someone second that?
I'll second it.
And then Councilman Matthews.
We don't need motions to remove them. If somebody wants them removed, they're removed. So we'll just remove 15 to 22 and
30 and 31. 230 and 31 are removed.
Okay.
There we go.
Yeah, very good. I have a motion to adopt consent agenda as amended.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Roll call, please, Ms. Ariano.
Councilman Martin, Councilman Matthews.
Aye.
Councilman Petrozelli.
Aye.
Councilman Tarantino.
Aye.
Councilwoman Tedisco.
Aye.
And Council President Mearsted.
Aye.
May I have a motion to adopt resolution?
No, delete.
Oh, I thought, Robert just said.
I know what you did.
I have a motion to delete resolution 15222.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? All right.
Aye.
Aye.
Good? You okay now?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I have a motion to adopt resolution 15-30.
2:30.
230, excuse me.
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution 15-230, Mayor.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion.
Right, this would be the appropriate time to answer residents' questions too, right? Okay.
Can I, Mayor, I hate to do this at this point, but could I suggest that we do resolution 15231 before you do 15230?
Okay. Sure. Not a problem.
We have to withdraw that motion, don't we?
Mr. Renaud, do we need to
Yes,
withdraw
the
that?
move
or
is
just-
seconded. Yes, it was. All right, why don't we, whoever's moved the motion, why don't you just withdraw it,
Okay, and then I can make it later?
and then we'll make it later.
Okay, so I'll withdraw my motion.
We have to vote on it?
No.
Okay. I have a motion to adopt resolution number 15-231.
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution 15-231, Mayor.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion.
We should open it up first with the questions and getting some answers. Okay, so,
Thank you.
thank you all for being here. There were many questions asked tonight that I do want to address as to the best of my ability. I have kept a list the entire meeting, listening to the public comment, and I'm sure fellow council people would also like to comment and answer questions. So, the first one brought up was about recycling. That's correct. Fanwood right now does not have curbside recycling, but they want to bring that in for their residents. So they are interested in cooperatively purchasing that with us. That is something that would continue to be a service done by a private hauler at this time. The street sweeper issue. We have another street sweeper. We have two. One went down. The one that did not go down is still, once it's repaired, we can still use that as our primary. We're looking to use Fanwood street sweeper as a secondary. The concept of the history of this position of superintendent, it's true. In 2003, the department was taken from 8 laborers, including a foreman, down to 7 laborers, including a foreman, and a superintendent was brought on at that time. We did not have a superintendent prior to 2003. Let's see, what do I have here? Just to clarify, this is not a merger. DPW laborers will not be going from town to town. For example, Garwood laborers would not be working in Fanwood. Fanwood laborers would not be working in Garwood. That is something that was clarified at the information sessions.
Can I just add to that real quickly? That's stated nowhere in the agreement.
Okay, questions about the agreement should go to Mr. Renaud, but if I can, I would just like to continue, Mr. Matthew.
I read it too.
Okay, let's see. Escape plan, somebody brought that up. There is a 60-day out clause, which means at any time in this agreement, if Garwood, for a reason or no reason at all, wants to exit this plan, we can do that. That's in the agreement. Someone had brought up the budget numbers mentioned in the flyer put out by the Garwood Republican Club. I would be happy to sit with anybody, anytime, about the budget and those numbers. And I just want to point out that instead of belaboring the point going one by one, that at the Tuesday information session last week, Mr. Pierulli had mentioned a few of these budget concerns. One was $37,000 in municipal roof repairs, which wasn't the exact accurate amount, but it was close enough, so that's fine. But it says repairs that should have been covered by funds in the surplus. And I explained last Tuesday that government just doesn't work like that. We just can't pull money out of the surplus. It's not an account. It has to come out of the operating budget, or we have to bond for things, basically taking out a loan.
You are on tape saying that. I will present that paper.
Mr. Curry, please.
But that is just impossible, and I corrected that on Tuesday. And so, okay. And so I just want to point out that that's just not how it works, and yet it was still presented in the flyer. Next I have here, someone has mentioned the county budget. The county doesn't set our budget, the mayor and council sets the municipal budget. The county sets their own, they hand Garwood the bill. The school board sets their own, they hand Garwood the bill, that's how that works. State mandate, the state mandate does not say that this position needs to be a full-time position. It just means that there needs to be someone that's a certified public works manager. It can be done part-time. The reason the state did that, one would think, would be to make sure that there's a certified person at a DPW that knows the regulations, goes through the training and so forth, is certified by the state of New Jersey. Someone asked a very good question about what's next, and I just want to state for the record, and I'm going to mention it later on as well before the vote, if that's okay, Mayor, that I do consider myself a big skeptic of shared services, and I can tell you right now, and I'll be on record saying this, that I do not believe in a complete merge of the Garwood DPW. I do not believe in a merge of police force. I know that was something talked about years ago, and that rumor mill is always going on that maybe, we'll merge towns. I'm absolutely not for that. If I felt that we would truly lose our identity by doing this deal, I would not support it. Next, we were asked a question, it was brought up that we are the only one. I did not call 565 municipalities in the state of New Jersey, so I can't speak for sure, but what I can say to that, I can just pull this, a lot of papers here. There are 2 towns, Salem County, that have a shared service for DPW. It was very apparent on their website when I did just a quick Google search, Upper Pittsgrove and Elmer. And my question back is just, why can't Garwood be innovative and in that area? Let's see. Well, wards came up in terms of elections. We don't have wards here in Garwood. We are elected at large. I feel very confident from walking around the town, as I do a lot, and speaking with residents that are in favor of this agreement here as well. And then I do want to ask Mr. Renaud to comment on a couple of these questions that came up. Resident class action lawsuit, a lawsuit because of the Shared Service Act in 2013. Mr. Renaud, I'd like your opinion on that as our attorney. Let's see. Replacement of equipment, as was stated at the information sessions. Fanwood is responsible for Fanwood equipment. Garwood is responsible for Garwood equipment. Basically, Fanwood is taking on risk, having their equipment go here because it's additional wear and tear on their vehicles. That's part of the deal, that's part of the understanding. Same for Garwood sending equipment to Fanwood. However, it's very important to note that, quite frankly, Fanwood will be giving us more equipment than we can offer them. We are in actual need for this equipment, and they are really not in that type of need situation that we are, where if we don't do this deal, we would then have to go out and bond this money. Let's see. In terms of the documents that Garwood uses, say for a street opening, that would be something that, Fanwood also has street openings, of course, in the documents. I looked at them, they're not exactly the same right now, of course not. But that's something that can be looked at. Maybe they do need to be streamlined. Maybe our documents need to be updated. What was the year they were last done? 2004 or so? 2003, 2004. So, maybe it is time that we look at our documents. Mr. Patterson brought up that good point. That's what I have here written down. But Mr. Renaud, if you could speak to those concerns and also the concern about the insurance component.
My question about how many bids we got.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I do have a long list here. We only talked to Fanwood when it came to this deal. And I just want to be perfectly honest about it. I'm okay with that because of a couple. Absolutely, I respect your opinion. It was a good deal as far as the committee felt looking at it.
Nothing to compare it to.
Okay. Well, we felt comfortable with the administration we would be getting, and also they were a willing partner with the right equipment and willing to share it. So I just want to answer your question and be honest about that. Shame on you. Is there not?
Let's see, I hope I wrote down all your questions. The Shared Services Act, I don't have any question in my mind that the agreement can be entered into as a shared services agreement, or that it's invalid, or that the statute prohibits it. The Shared Services Act is essentially a sort of an expansion of what was called the Interlocal Services Act. So municipalities have been allowed to enter into agreements with each other to share services for at least 50 years under the Interlocal Services Act. And they changed the name of it and some of the provisions there to call it shared services, I guess, so it sounds a little more accessible. But it's pretty much the same thing. And I think there was a pilot program in Camden, but it didn't have to do with this subject matter. So I don't have any question in my mind that the agreement can be entered into legally for Garwood and Fanwood to share services in this regard. Class action, if I understand the suggestion that a multitude of residents would sue the borough, and that would qualify as a class action lawsuit. It would not, let's see, insurance. Probably the thing that was of most concern to me in entering into the agreement was to make sure that the insurance lined up with the liabilities. That is, that if Garwood took on any liability, that it was covered by its joint insurance fund. Or joint insurance fund is a substitute, it's a public substitute for an insurance company. A number of municipalities get together and form a joint insurance fund. So we're in the suburban joint insurance fund, or JIF. That suburban JIF, and specifically through the administrator, but at my request, reviewed the agreement, indicated, actually had some changes which we made to make sure that the borough was protected and didn't take on any liability that wouldn't have been covered. So as far as insurance, as I said, it was reviewed carefully by our risk manager and also with input from the joint insurance fund. So it's legally, legally the agreement is fine as far as I'm concerned. I was asked to review it, obviously, from a legal point of view. From a legal point of view, I'm satisfied with it.
The one, I do have one over here. The point about the ballot, about it going on the ballot, it's my understanding that it could not go on the ballot as a binding referendum. It can't force the council either to enter into the agreement or not enter into the agreement. But yes, you are correct, it can go on the ballot legally for public input, but it is not binding. It's not a binding referendum. So that's just the distinction there, but that's all I have.
Sure, that last thing, Councilwoman Tedesco said was the first thing that was on my comment sheet here. And I want to take it a step further, and Councilwoman Tedesco is a history teacher, so maybe she can say this better than I, but one of the discussions I always have with people is the idea of individual votes. I'm sure we all know, we don't live in a democracy. We live in a democratic republic.
Hello?
We live in a democratic republic. If you remember Benjamin Franklin, okay, as he was walking out of the Constitutional Convention, he was asked, what kind of government have you set up for us? And he said, a republic, ma'am, if you can keep it. And the bottom line there is a democratic republic is one in which you elect people, you elect council people, mayors, governors, whatever, presidents, to represent and to vote. And one of my favorite books, okay, is Profiles in Courage, that was written by John F. Kennedy. And if you ever read about Edmund Ross, Andrew Johnson, President Andrew Johnson, was saved by one vote, if you agree with that or not, with his impeachment. But his constituents did not agree with preserving Andrew Johnson's vote, or Andrew Johnson's presidency. And Mr. Ross did not agree with his constituents, and he did indeed vote to keep Mr. Johnson the president. And yes, he was not elected the next term. But he knew that going in, and he voted his conscience, as elected officials certainly are allowed to do. And just one last comment is cost savings. Cost savings don't always result, as we know, okay, whether you're coupon shopping, whether you're using 10% off at a restaurant, it doesn't result in additional money in your pocket. It results in less money being put out. And so, two comments on that. One is that we all know everything goes up, and thank God some of our salaries go up, and we want that to happen. So, taxes, yeah, they're gonna go up, cost of living goes up. But by having shared services and by doing other things that this council has done, those increases are slowed. If we had to pay for the building division here in Garwood, that would be more money. If we had to pay for a health division here in Garwood, that would be more money. So the savings doesn't mean that your taxes aren't going to go up. It means that they go up slower, and that by having shared services, you're able to utilize services of other municipalities without a direct cost to you. I haven't yet indicated publicly, I don't know where this 10 times I tried to pass a vote, get a vote going last time. 10 times we asked, a number of times we asked if it had to be voted on. Didn't mean we wanted to vote on it. It simply meant that it had to be voted on, Mr. Pruitt.
First time with the vice.
Beyond that, at that night, I did not indicate how I intended to vote. I still have not indicated how I intend to vote tonight, and I look forward to hearing fellow comments from fellow council people.
Can I just ask a question? You think maybe it's time to let us know how you're gonna vote?
I certainly will.
Let us know.
Before I vote.
Let's not be hilarious about it.
Unbelievable.
Any comments from the other part of the dais? Any other discussion?
Yeah, I've been open with how I stand on this. I think that's part of what we're supposed to do, right? Let you know where we stand on things and get some input from you. This thing has been a disaster, Mayor. This is your problem, all right? You handled this very poorly. Excuse me, I'm not done speaking, sir. I'm giving you some constructive feedback. You handled this very, very poorly. If I were in favor of this proposal, I would feel you handled this very poorly. This needs to be built upon. This needs to be sold to the people in this room. They need to be persuaded. Their feedback needs to be put into this. You have to build a consensus up on here. I indicated my initial support for this proposal, and I let people know that. And then I didn't hear anything from anybody. Not a phone call, not an email, nothing. Mr. Pierley brought up the recycling disaster, okay? Well, let me tell you something. Why did we get rid of Waste Management, a Fortune 500 company that did a good job in town for 4 years? To sync up our contract with Fanwood.
I thought so.
Okay, there you go. And guess what? There were red flags that this was some kind of shoddy company. All along, I brought up concerns. No one up here, the borough attorney included, took me seriously. Okay, excuse me, I'm talking, give me my statement. Can I have at least as much time as Mr. Disco has? Okay, so guess what happened? They ignored those concerns, they didn't do their homework, and the guys didn't show up to pick up your recycling. That's the job we do. That's the job we do, planning these things. This is the job we've done with firing Fred. I want to be very clear, and I told Fred this to his face. If I thought this were a good idea, and the price of it were his job, I would go ahead and I would support this proposal. Put a comma, let me put a caveat to that. It's not. We are gonna find out very painfully, okay, once he's gone, what he does in those other 30 hours. You're gonna pick up your phone. In my house, we say, we only lived here, what, 7 years? My wife and I call Fred. Well, you're gonna find out what you were calling Fred for and what's not right. That's what's gonna happen. They haven't done their homework.
Vote no. That's all we have to say is vote no. I'm just tired of sitting here waiting for the vote. Vote already.
And then the other thing I want to state is, I've gotten this from a bunch of people, but I want to give Mr. Bonfanti credit for this. I was telling him, waxing eloquently about what I thought about this proposal.
And he said to me, he said, Jim, it's not what you think, it's what we think. And you know what? He's right. I report to you, you're my boss. I'm here to represent you. If you don't like something, I got a great idea, hey, Jim's got a great idea. And 9 out of 10 people tell me, hey, Jim, thanks, I don't want it. Who am I to go ahead and vote this and force this on you?
You're the only one.
If we're not gonna listen to you, then why do you take time to send us emails? Why do you take time to grab us in ShopRite and say, hey, Jim, I like what you did, I didn't like what you did? Why do you take time to show up at council meetings? Why don't we just close it off and do whatever the heck we want up here? Okay? We have to listen to you. I've never seen, I've been here 5 years now, I haven't seen anyone, like 20 to 1. 20 to 1 in this room. Listen to the people that elected you, the people
More than
that you
that, because
represent.
half of them couldn't come in because they had to leave. because they couldn't hear.
350 signatures. Do not vote for this in the face of all this public opposition. I respect you if you think this is a great idea. They don't.
There you go.
All right, and please do what they want. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Roll call, Ms. Arian.
Mayor, at this time, is this where, like, final comments, reasons why we're
Okay.
voting, so forth? Okay. However you want to do it, Mayor, if you want to
Let's
go
go to the
around.
roll call. Hang
Bias.
on. Councilman Martin, any words of, issues of, I have to vote.
Yeah, I got a few things to say.
Okay.
I appreciate the opportunity to share my views with Garwood residents on this issue. I've been silent because I wanted to wait for an appropriate time to hear my views. I'm a Republican. One of the core values of any true Republican politician is to work for lower taxes and smaller government. I realize this is a very emotional issue for a lot of residents. It's a blue-collar town. Losing your job is horrible. Okay? But the bottom line for me is rational. Garwood is less than a square mile. Okay? If a part-time boss and 7 full-time workers and some seasonal help can't take care of less than 1 square mile, nobody's doing their job. Sorry, that's the way I feel. Vote me out, do it. I'm not running again, so don't even bother to think about that. Thank you.
So you don't care?
You don't care? No, don't say that.
No more shouting out. No more shouting
Guys, step down.
Then step down.
Smaller government, step right out.
Let's keep this please.
Sleep on the bench.
Councilman Matthew, any further comment?
Do I have any further comments? You want to give me, I'll give, yeah.
I don't want to, oration,
Yeah, thank you, I appreciate that. I think the way that we've treated Fred is terrible. I don't understand why he was told he was losing his job before I was told that this was gonna be brought up as an issue. If we get sued, we deserve it, okay? Someone asked a question about the clerk suing, how much that cost us. I'll tell you what, legal fees were covered by insurance. We get sued on this, there is no insurance, okay? The way the mayor and this committee, the shadow committee, has handled this, if we get sued, it is their fault, okay? You can go ahead and you can put the accountability right here. I won that lawsuit. I was sued personally. I won. It is their position that it's still my fault for getting sued, okay? Now, what if he sues and wins? What if he sues at all? It's their position that is their fault. Remember that.
Thank you. Councilman Petroselli?
Thank you, Mayor. This is not an easy decision in any way. This is the hardest thing that I've ever had to do, and I've been up here for 7 years. I know Fred personally. I mean, I contact Fred, many times when we went through, the construction of the athletic field. We had monthly construction meetings. This is a hard, gut-wrenching choice to make, but I understand what the committee is going for, and I understand what the mayor is trying to do when he took office, when he read his, his inaugural statement, that he's looking at everything. He's looking at ways to try to make Garwood more streamlined and more productive, and we're still trying to keep our identity. And I think that this shared service agreement with Fanwood does that. And I think that Councilwoman Sarah Tedesco said this very well, where Fanwood is the same size basically as we are, okay? We didn't,
Please, no outbreaks.
It's basically the same size. We're not-
Please, no outbreaks.
Okay, we're not exactly the same size, okay? But in this deal here, there is no bigger person that can take over what you're trying to accomplish. Where if you go with a larger town, okay, then you might lose your identity and then you might lose your services that you think that you're actually trying to save on. So, again, I mean, this is not an easy decision at all. It's been a very, very tough thing for me personally to go through and to hear, what they have to say. But I do support what the committee has come back with, and, the mayor is going to continue to look into other ways, to try to streamline this town and make things, better for all of us. And, that's how I feel about this. This has been a very, very tough thing for me personally, to go through.
Thank you. Councilwoman Tedesco? Sorry, Tarantino?
Thank you, Mayor. When the shared services agreement with Fanwood discussion began in the Administrative Review Committee, I supported the idea, as did all the other members of the committee. When discussing executive sessions, the entire council supported it, and we put it on the agenda for a vote at the last meeting. As you are all aware, we were confronted by some opposition because the public felt they did not get a fair chance to be educated on the agreement and have their voices heard. So I thought I took the appropriate action and tabled the resolution to give us some time to have open discussion. In the past 3 weeks, we held 2 informational meetings, sent flyers door to door, and answered many phone calls, emails, and had one-on-one conversations with residents on this topic. Anyone who wanted to express an opinion on this subject was certainly given the opportunity to do so before tonight's vote. Although I was not able to attend the first informational meeting, I did watch the video, and I did attend the second meeting. I listened to all the concerns of those opposing it, and I also listened to many residents in support. I was glad to have the time between council meetings to listen to the residents and take time to regroup. They gave us time to look at this from a different angle. I questioned the entire agreement and asked myself if we were doing the right thing. Were we doing what was best for Garwood? There are 3 parts to this agreement: cooperative bidding, sharing equipment, and administrative personnel. But while listening to those opposed, what I heard was mainly opposition focusing on one aspect, almost totally ignoring the other parts of the agreement. I saw the petition that was being floated around online by the Garwood Republican Club. That petition, in my opinion, was misleading because, again, it only spoke about one aspect of the agreement, and it did not tell the whole story of that one aspect either. As elected officials, we have to do what's best for Garwood, not just one person. As difficult as this decision has been, I feel confident that tonight, supporting these 2 resolutions, entering into this shared service agreement is the right thing to do for Garwood. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Tedesco?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm sorry, I know I talk a lot. But I just want to say, in terms of the petition going around, I did look at it, I read the paragraph online, and I want to say that as a social studies teacher, I think that the petition is an example of active citizenship, and it should be commended. However, I do feel that it is a bit flawed, to say the least, from what Councilwoman Tarantino just said. This was put out.
Let's keep it civil. It's our turn now.
This was put out by the Garwood Republican Club. It also includes a sentence that says that Garwood's DPW would report to Fanwood, which is not true, as Councilwoman Tarantino reported on earlier. However, what I want to say is that if I'm presented with that petition and I can read all the signatures and addresses on there, I will personally reach out to everyone that has signed that. If this passes tonight and takes effect, after 2-3 months, I will absolutely reach out and see if they feel their services have declined. If I thought that this would lead to a decline in service, I wouldn't support it. And what I wanted to say, I have written here. As I said before, I've mentioned this many times before, and my actions on the council have showed I do consider myself, and I show myself to be a big skeptic of shared services for Garwood. The reason being that I absolutely do not want to put Garwood in jeopardy of losing its identity in any way, shape, or form. We became independent of our neighboring towns in 1903, and I intend to fight to keep us independent. However, as a member of the council, I have learned that costs keep rising, And we cannot simply accept the status quo and raise taxes without trying to save taxpayer dollars. In walking door to door in this town on numerous occasions, I hear residents plead with us to save them money without cutting their services, and I do not believe in cutting services. Although it can be debated whether or not a service was cut when bulk was taken out of the budget in 2010, and now it's paid for by the user, I know that I'm still hearing about that decision 5 years later, when I was not even on the council that did that. If I thought for 1 second that this proposal would cut a service, I would not support it. And like I said, although a skeptic of shared services, I recognize the borough already has shared services in place, and it is a way to make Garwood competitive in a state with 565 municipalities. I have lived these shared services as a student here who went to Arthur L. Johnson High School because we're not big enough to have our own high school. We, as Council President Neerstead pointed out, we share a health department and tax assessor with Westfield. We share a building department with Cranford. We share a contract with our Board of Education for cleaning. Our Board of Education shares a business administrator with Mountainside. Shared services are not new to Garwood, and they do not jeopardize our identity if done right. The proposed shared service with Fanwood is an opportunity to save money without reducing services. I see it as two small towns sticking together to survive next to all these other bigger towns. And just as shared services are not new to Garwood, downsizing is not new either, as many of our residents have experienced it themselves in the private companies they work for or in the public sector jobs that they've had. In fact, the U.S. Army is even cutting troops $40,000. I just read USA Today and Fox News in 6 states.
Bingo.
Okay, that is the sad reality of this agreement. It's what makes it a very, very difficult decision. But in thinking about what's best for Garwood, I feel confident that entering the shared service is the right thing to do.
Thank you. Council President, Neerstead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Years ago, my father was an elected Republican councilman in Roselle. He sat in Councilman Matthews' seat as a sole GOP representative with 5 Democratic councilmen. My wife Maria was appointed to the Garwood Library Board long before I ran for my council seat. I've been involved in numerous volunteer and elected positions here in my hometown for 27 years. I tell you this to show that community service has long been a part of my family. This service is not always easy. I'm reminded of this each time I am castigated in print. I know that each one of us sitting on this dais has asked ourselves, I really wanted this position? More than once in the past few weeks. Councilman Pedrozelli recently remarked to me that this decision tonight is the hardest one he's ever had to make on a set of council years. Councilwoman Tedesco reminded me recently of a comment that I made to her after gaining this council seat about making a decision on a matter that I thought was best for Garwood but was not supported by the residents. I immediately responded that I'd always vote what I thought was best for Garwood, regardless of my personal political future. Those who scorn me on social media refer to me as a 60s hippie, but I wear that badge with honor. I've long been a community activist, not a politician. This decision is not easy, but entering into this agreement is the best thing for Garwood. Regardless of how it has been framed, this is a financial issue, not a personnel or emotional decision. This agreement allows us to enter into a shared services agreement, which have long been pushed by our state leaders, both Republican and Democrat. An agreement that will assist us in keeping our beloved hometown an independent community. One which will allow us to save money, which Garwood voters have asked us to do repeatedly. It will allow us to utilize equipment without making capital outlays for it, and to be able to use it and to be able to obtain its use quicker than when borrowing equipment from Cranford, Westfield, or the county, given their larger size and need to Fanwood, a town similar to us in so many ways. It will allow us to have larger purchasing power, thereby giving us an economy of scale that we currently do not have, thereby making future purchases less expensive. It will allow us to utilize the Fanwood Recycling Center, which recycles more varied materials, and I know you know that that's important to me, and Garwood does, at profit. It also comes with a major downside, the loss of a valuable member of our borough. That is what makes this decision so difficult. The financial reasoning is easy, but this has turned into a political issue. One of the inherent hypocritical contradictions of the Republican Party, which is small government and public employee workforce reduction, as a basic creed, supposedly supporting the retention of a public employee. Make no mistake about this. The current Garwood Republican Party could not care less about the loss of one Garwood employee. They're simply using this to make it appear they have compassion for lively voters. Up until this very issue, they have campaigned relentlessly to reduce Garwood's employee costs. and they will continue this call tomorrow. I had a boss once who went through 5 different jobs. When I asked her about the impacts of those situations, she advised me that while it was always painful, she'd always been able to find a better job. Each new job was better than her previous job in some way. I wish Fred Corbett the best, and possessive of the abilities that those who oppose this measure state that he has, I know he will have no difficulty in finding another position of equal or better employee. I wish him the best. Based on this vote, I too may be without my current position with the borough in November, but no one said elected service. It's easy. This agreement is a good one for Garwood, and my vote will be to support it. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd just like to make an open statement. Basically, first of all, I don't know, some of you know if this comes to a tie vote, that's the only time I would vote. I don't anticipate anything yet. Just that I want to thank my committee. They did a great job over the 6 months. We tackled many issues, and hopefully we have a good future ahead of us. And I'm appalled by your comment, Mr. Councilman Matthew, about my committee. That's all, thank you.
Mayor, if I could just make one final comment. We've had a lot of speaking on this. If I could, I mean, we're in a rush. What's the moment? Yeah, I mean, just again, I don't want to talk about myself. I want to talk about you. You know, when the candidates come knocking on your door again, and I've done it too, ask them in a situation like this.
Talking about the
where the room's
resolution,
full of
sir,
people,
please.
what will they go ahead and do? If they're not going to listen to you, get rid of them.
Bill just made
Unbelievable.
it. Bill just made it.
Roll call. Please, Ms. Ariama.
Councilman Martin? We're voting on resolution 231. Councilman Martin? Councilman Matthew?
No.
Councilman Petrozelli?
Yes.
Councilwoman Tarantino? Aye. Councilwoman Tedisco?
Aye.
Council President Mears.
Yes.
Passed by 5-1 vote.
Surprise.
I have a motion to adopt resolution 15-30.
Bullshit, and you guys haven't heard the last of it.
Do I have a second? Discussion again. Roll call, please, Ms. Ariama.
Councilman Matthews?
No.
Councilman Petrozelli? Councilwoman Tarantino? Councilwoman Tedisco?
We're not over the meeting, please, thank you.
See if I can make some money tonight.
Is there any new business the mayor and council may have? Hearing none, Ms. Ariama, please read the payment of the claims resolution.
Be it resolved, the following claims as approved be and here, same with your report paid and properly signed and verified. The payment of payroll as approved by confirmed and ratified.
I have a motion to adopt payment of claims.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please, Ms. Ariama.
Councilman Martin? Councilman Matthews?
Aye.
Councilman Petrozelli?
Aye.
Councilwoman Tarantino? Aye. Councilman Tedisco?
Aye.
Council President Mears.
Yes.
Ms. Ariama, please read resolution number 15-232, motion to go into executive session.
Yes, Mayor. Closed session resolution authorizing executive session for the purpose of discussing potential litigation between the Borough of Garwood and equipment rental services related to the contract for recycling and matters pertaining to current privilege related to the above in accordance with NJSA 10-412, closed session meetings open to the public, exclusion of public to the matter. Whereas it is necessary for the mayor and council of the Borough of Garwood to conduct an executive session closed to the public in order to discuss the above listed matters. Now therefore be it resolved that the council of the Borough of Garwood hereby moves to go into executive session in accordance with the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act, for the purpose of discussing the subject stated above, and be it further resolved that the matters discussed in the minutes of the closed session shall be disclosed to the public when the reason for confidentiality no longer exists.
Do I have a second?
Motion.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
All in favor? Shall we go to the back, please?
Yes.
Mr. Martin, I can't believe you said you don't know what they do it. I'm really disappointed. I really
You guys had such a tough time, why are you making the decision? Why don't you put it better?
Everybody, I called the news stations and I've requested some kind of background check on our council because I think there's really big underhanded things going on here. I think there's swap handing deals, and so the news police stations have been called, and they're going to get reporting, and we're gonna be calling together a community board together to impeach these people and to have it more transparency, okay? So we'll, don't worry, we'll put signs around town. Okay, I'm going, thank you.
Maybe I will, the one meeting. She knows it all right. June 31st. And they did date June 30th. And they did not. They walked away. So we had no